Welcome to today's episode, where we take a sobering look at one of the most devastating tragedies in recent memory. The catastrophic roof collapsed at the Jet Set Nightclub in Santo Domingo this past Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, as beloved merengue icon Ruby Pérez performed. Disaster struck, claiming 221 lives and injured over 250 more. In this deep dive, we unpacked the heartbreaking human toll, the national and international response, and dissect the factors, both structural and systemic, that may have led to this unimaginable collapse. Featuring insights from survivors' accounts and meticulous frame-by-frame YouTube analysis, we examine how decades of modifications, overlooked maintenance, and possible design flaws could have culminated in one of the worst nightclub disasters in Caribbean history.
You're joining us today for a deep dive into, well, a really significant and, frankly, heartbreaking event that unfolded recently. We've gathered a number of news reports and also a very detailed analysis we found on YouTube to try and understand the catastrophic roof collapse at the Jet Set Nightclub.
Right, in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. That was April 8th, 2025.
Exactly. And this happened during a live concert, wasn't it?
Yeah, the iconic merengue artist Ruby Pérez was performing. And the scale of what happened, it's just immense. The latest figures indicate over 200 lives were lost.
And so many injured, too.
Yeah, many, many more injured. Yeah.
So our goal here isn't just to, rehash the headlines. We really want to dig into what happened in those early morning hours.
Try and piece things together.
Yeah, and explore some of the potential factors that might have led to this collapse.
Yeah.
That frame-by-frame analysis on YouTube, I think that's going to be particularly helpful for us.
Definitely. So let's set the scene a bit. The timeline this tragedy occurred early Tuesday morning, April 8th, 2025. The time was around 12:44 a.m. Atlantic Standard Time.
And the Jet Set Nightclub itself.
Yeah.
It wasn't some new place, right? It had a real history.
Oh, absolutely. Jet Set was practically an institution there. It had been operating for nearly 5 decades.
Wow, 50 years.
Since 1973, yeah. And it was particularly famous for its Jet Set Mondays.
Right, I read about those. Merengue nights.
Exactly. Featuring popular merengue artists. And it attracted, a real mix of people, celebrities, prominent Dominicans. The fact that Ruby Pérez, a legend, was performing just shows its status.
So you have this packed, famous venue, a beloved performer, and then the unthinkable happens. The initial reports, they mentioned a lot of confusion right afterward, didn't they?
Well, yeah, completely understandable. The flow of information was pretty slow in those first hours.
Must have been agonizing for the families.
Oh, incredibly anxious, just waiting for any news about loved ones. We saw reports of Juan Manuel Mendez. He's the head of the Center of Emergency Operations. And he was visibly emotional talking to the press. It just highlights the sheer difficulty, the human impact of it all.
And the numbers, they're just staggering.
They really are. The final count reached a heartbreaking 221 lives lost.
221.
And another 255 people with non-fatal injuries.
Good grief.
And over 150 of those needed medical evacuations, serious injuries. But incredibly, 189 people were pulled alive from the debris.
That's something, at least. When did the search end?
The search for survivors concluded on that Thursday.
Okay, and this wasn't just a Dominican effort, was it? There was international help.
That's right, and it's important people know that. There was a significant international response. Rescue teams came in from Israel, Puerto Rico, and Mexico to offer their specialized help. It was an incredibly difficult search operation.
And the impact, it went beyond Santo Domingo itself, didn't it?
Oh, definitely. We saw reports of prayers, vigils, not just locally, but even in places like New York.
Really shows the connection to the diaspora.
It does. And the local community response, too, so many people donating blood. It just shows that solidarity in the face of such a crisis.
The human cost is just immense, and it touched so many lives, including some very well-known people.
Yes, and this is where it becomes particularly poignant, I think. It really underscores how wide-reaching this was. The list of victims includes some very prominent names.
Like the performer himself.
Tragically, yes. The merengue singer Ruby Pérez died in the collapse.
Such a huge loss for the music world. But you said it went beyond that. Sports figures, too.
Yes. Former MLB players Octavio Dotel and Tony Enrique Blanco Cabrera also lost their lives that night.
2 well-known baseball figures just gone.
In an instant.
Yeah.
And the connections to prominent people, well, they continue.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
Nelsie Cruz, she was the governor of Monte Cristi province.
Right.
And also the sister of MLB All-Star Nelson Cruz. She was among those who died.
And there was that detail about her calling the president.
Yeah, really chilling detail. Apparently she managed to call President Abinader from under the debris. Just brings home the terror of it.
Absolutely awful. And the list goes on.
It does. A retired UN official, the saxophonist, Luis Solis, who was actually performing with Ruby Pérez.
On stage at the time.
Yeah. And the fashion designer, Martin Polanco. They were all killed.
Yeah.
And it even affected people in government circles directly.
It did. The son and daughter-in-law of the Minister of Public Works and the brother of the Vice Minister of the Ministry of Youth were also among the victims.
And the business community felt it too, I recall.
Yes, very sadly. 3 employees from Grupo Popular, which is a major financial group there,
Okay.
including the president of AFP Popular Bank and his wife, they also died.
It's just wave after wave of loss.
It really is. And the fact that, former Red Sox star David Ortiz attended Octavio Dotel's wake just shows how deeply this resonated, especially in the sports world and beyond.
Clearly, this event had a profound impact, not just in the Dominican Republic, but internationally too, judging by the reactions.
Absolutely. Condolences came pouring in from all over. Members of the U.S. Congress, the presidents of Venezuela and Russia.
Really?
Yeah. And even the foreign minister of Cuba. It shows the widespread shock and sadness this caused globally.
Okay, so let's try and shift focus now to what everyone wants to understand. What could possibly have caused something like this? Such a catastrophic collapse.
Right.
We know an official investigation is underway, but that YouTube analysis you mentioned, it seems to offer some, well, potential early insights.
It does. And what's interesting is the approach. It's a very meticulous, frame-by-frame look at publicly available video footage from inside the club moments before the roof came down.
Okay, so what do they see initially?
Well, right at the start, the video points out you can see a man pointing upwards towards the ceiling on the left side of the room.
Okay.
And what's significant is that Ruby Pérez, the singer, and his bandmates also seem to be looking in that same direction.
So something got their attention up there.
Exactly. And Perez's reaction, the video highlights this, he actually shields his eyes with his hand and looks up.
Suggesting maybe something was falling. Or just looked wrong.
Could be. Maybe a piece of decoration, maybe a light, something caught his eye.
And this leads to what the video calls the crucial moment.
Precisely. Around the 29-second mark in the footage they analyze, it focuses on this large fixture, the one with multiple reflective globes. And what's really clear, frame by frame, is this whole fixture starts moving downwards. It appears to be dropping. The YouTuber really emphasizes that motion.
Wow. You can imagine the feeling in the room if people notice this.
Well, the person filming certainly did. As that fixture starts coming down, the camera operator starts to run.
The clear sign of danger.
Absolutely. And then almost instantly, the whole roof comes down. You can hear someone yelling. The entire collapse sequence, from that fixture moving to total collapse.
How long?
They estimate about 3 seconds. Just 3 seconds.
Unbelievably fast. Did the video mention any survivor accounts that lined up with this?
Yes, there was a compelling account from a survivor named Iris Pina.
Okay, what did she say?
She said she first noticed dirt, like dust, falling into her drink. Then a stone actually fell and cracked her table.
Oh my goodness.
Her immediate reaction was just to get out. She said it felt like an earthquake or a tsunami, which kind of supports that idea of an initial, maybe localized failure point.
Right, where she was sitting, perhaps. And this is where the YouTuber starts talking about potential underlying structural issues.
Exactly. Connecting these observations to the bigger picture, they raise some crucial points about the building's age, decades old, likely built under different codes, maybe less strict ones. And they emphasize the number of additions, modifications made over the years.
Like what kind of additions? Heavy stuff.
Well, specifically heavy air conditioning units installed up on the roof.
Okay, that's a lot of weight.
It is. And then inside, all the substantial lighting and sound gear, those big line array speakers they hang from the ceiling for concerts. And the core question the YouTuber raises is, was the original roof structure ever actually designed to support all that added weight?
That seems like a pretty critical question.
It really is. You add weight over decades, potentially without reinforcing the structure adequately. It's bound to have an effect.
And were there other factors they considered beyond just the weight itself?
Yes. The analysis also explores the idea that maybe the loud music, the vibrations from the concert.
Could that really trigger a collapse?
Well, it could potentially exacerbate existing weaknesses. If the structure is already under stress, those vibrations might just be the final push. the straw that breaks the camel's back kind of thing.
Makes sense. Constant vibration isn't good for structures. What else?
They also talk about concrete itself, how it expands and contracts with temperature changes. Over many, many years, this cycle can cause fatigue, weaken the concrete.
Okay. Wear and tear, basically.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's the issue of water seepage. If water gets into the concrete, it can corrode the steel reinforcing bars inside the rebar.
Right, I've heard of that. Rusting rebar expands.
Exactly. It expands and pushes the concrete apart from the inside, causing it to crack and break off. It's called concrete spalling.
And did the video find anything suggesting water damage was an issue at Jet Set?
Actually, yes. They pointed out something quite striking in some footage. A 55-gallon drum seen inside the club, apparently positioned to collect water.
Really? Like catching a leak?
It certainly looks that way, which could suggest ongoing leaks in the roof, lending weight to the water damage theory.
That's pretty telling if true. The YouTuber compared this to another famous collapse too, didn't they?
Yes, they drew a parallel to the Sampoon department store collapse in South Korea back in 1995.
What happened there?
A major factor there was overloaded and improperly moved air conditioning units on the roof. It's a really stark reminder of the serious consequences of adding too much weight without proper engineering checks.
So the AC units again. Did the analysis look at the Jet Set roof from the outside?
Yeah, using Google Street Maps imagery. The YouTuber noted what looked like additional structures built around the AC units on the Jet Set roof.
More weight.
Potentially, yes, raising even more questions about the total load on that original structure.
So putting it all together, did the video suggest where the collapse might have started?
Based on combining those eyewitness accounts, like the man pointing up, with overhead views of the post-collapse damage, the hypothesis is that the failure might have begun in a corner opposite the stage.
Okay, which lines up with where the man was pointing.
Seems to, yeah.
Looking at the rubble of the video analysis, were there other structural things they noticed?
A couple of things. They pointed out exposed beams in the debris and noted that some seemed to lack obvious central supports, raising questions about the original design's load-bearing capacity. They also spotted a long lighting rig in the post-collapse photos that wasn't clearly visible in earlier interior shots.
So maybe a recent addition for the concert?
It raised the question, yeah, was it new? How heavy was it? Another potential weight factor. And finally, just the damage to the concrete block walls. It showed the immense force of that collapsing roof.
So it really sounds like a confluence of factors, potentially. The building's age, maybe outdated codes, decades of added weight from AC units and sound gear, possible weakening from water damage or vibrations.
It paints a very complex picture of what might have gone wrong, yeah. Not likely one single thing, perhaps.
Okay. Now, what about the official investigation? What do we know about that?
Well, the news reports confirm authorities have definitely launched a full, in-depth investigation.
Right.
And prosecutors visited the site after the search and rescue finished, which shows how seriously they're taking it.
But no preliminary findings yet. No official word on causes.
Not yet, no. Officials have been very cautious, which is understandable. They haven't publicly commented on specific potential causes. It needs a careful, detailed investigation.
And are there broader questions being asked now about building safety and inspections there?
Absolutely. Questions are definitely being raised about how often buildings are inspected, how thorough those inspections are in the Dominican Republic.
And specifically for Jet Set, do we know when it was last inspected?
That's the problem. Our sources indicate there's been a real lack of information on that specific point from government spokespeople and from the club's owners themselves.
Okay. So just to recap for everyone listening, we've covered the tragic events of that night, the awful scale of the loss of life, including many prominent people. And we've dug into some of these initial theories about the cause, mostly drawing from that quite detailed YouTube analysis. These range from, possible structural weaknesses due to age and add weight over many years.
Right, the AC units, the sound system.
To more immediate potential triggers like the concert vibrations, or longer-term issues like water damage, concrete fatigue.
Material degradation over time.
But it's crucial to remember, as you said, the official cause is still very much under investigation.
Absolutely. Lots of unanswered questions remain, especially about the building's structural history, the impact of all those modifications.
This whole thing, it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? About how complex these structures are and how different factors can combine.
Yeah, seemingly small issues accumulating over time.
And lead to something this catastrophic. It really hammers home the need for constant vigilance with structural integrity, especially for older buildings that have been modified a lot.
It truly does. This tragedy is such a stark, sobering reminder about, well, the fragility of the structures we live and work and gather in every day. It just emphasizes the absolute need for thorough oversight, regular maintenance, and really understanding all the forces acting on a building to keep it safe. It makes you wonder, what unseen stresses might exist in other buildings, what weaknesses could be developing that we just don't see.
All right, guys, and this is where we leave things for today, but honestly, this one isn't easy to move on from. What happened at Jet Set Nightclub wasn't just a tragic accident. It was a catastrophic failure that shook the heart of the Dominican Republic and sent shockwaves across the globe. Over 220 lives lost, families shattered, icons gone in an instant, and it leaves us with one haunting question. How did this happen? As someone who loves to travel, who stepped into venues like that, dance under those lights, I can't help but to wonder, are we really safe? What are the standards, the inspections, the accountability in places we trust with our lives when we are just trying to enjoy a night out of music? So I want to hear from you guys, the listeners, the travelers, Dominicans, engineers, architects. Do you think this could have been avoided? What could have changed going forward? How can we feel safe when the structures around us might be carrying more weight than they were built for? Head over to the comments, send us a voice note, tag us on social media. I want to know your thoughts. This conversation can't stop here, because if we don't ask these questions now, we risk facing this kind of heartbreak later. Let's keep talking. Stay safe and take care of each other. I'll see you on the next one.